Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your favorite podcast, JailBreak Africa, where we give you trending stories as far as business is concerned, and we also run across what is happening across Africa as we try to liberate African minds for entrepreneurial success. And in this podcast, we are featuring an entrepreneur who has a company that has been shaking the ground as far as agriculture is concerned, literally shaking the ground, because that's what they do. I'm sure if you've traveled across Zimbabwe, you've seen farms where drones are flying around, spraying chemicals and pesticides. Yes, there's a company that is responsible for that, and half the time it's going to be Afrostein, and he's the one that we are going to be having a conversation with, and his name is Mr. Nyamupfukudza. So particular about his name. And of course, I have my main protagonist, the chartered vendor, Jerry. How are you? I always want to start with you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm super.
You're super.
Yeah.
Mrs. Nyamupfukudza, welcome to JailBreak Africa.
Thank you so much. I'm actually happy finally to be here.
Oh, it's been a long time
waiting for this moment.
Right. So to kickstart this conversation, please tell us a little bit more about Afrostein to those who may be curious to understand what you guys do. Because I'm sure some have seen the drones, but they never really know what's going on with the drones. What are you doing? Are you doing some land surveillance, or what is it?
Oh, thank you so much. So actually, Afrostein is a precision farming company, the pioneers of precision farming in Zimbabwe. And when it comes to actually our solutions, which involves the issues to do with the land use and management planning, farmer training, as well as capacity building, and of course the drone solutions, GIS and remote sensing. Most of the solutions that we provide, as long as they get to the market, it becomes the standard. So we are the people who are elevating farmers' financial as well as technological well-being by making sure that they get to understand the full use of their land, as well as maximizing the returns that they get from their farms, both returns on time invested as well as returns on money invested. It doesn't make sense to have $1 million when you over a period of 20 years, when you can get that million within a period of it's rarely possible to 1 year, but within a period of 5 years. So we are able to balance the time that farmers take from the initial investment to the recoupment of their investments. So our key line of business is basically to elevate farmers' financial well-being and their technological well-being. That's
fantastic. And chartered vendor, please dive into the
precision farming. Yeah. Probably for the sake of someone who is in Lupane, someone who is in Chipata, because we've got a lot of people. Some are coming from Kenya. Some of the countries probably they don't even know, or they don't even have this technology called precision farming. What is it in probably layman's
language? Thank you so much. So when you're talking about precision farming, we are basically talking about getting more results with less input. So when it comes to irrigation, for example, instead of you irrigating 1 hectare, you are irrigating 5,000 plants within a hectare. So if we are to talk about, I want to irrigate 10 hectares, yet you've got maybe plants that are only fitting in 5 hectares. We are talking about irrigating the plant and not irrigating the soil. Think of it in this way: we have got climate change nowadays.
Exactly.
We've got a challenge where,
like right now, I think I noticed that literally in areas like in Toko, they are now actually, if you actually light up your field, you can easily actually burn all the crops, especially maize. Because there was no rainfall this year. And
that's the El Nino induced drought.
Exactly.
So what you're saying, a drought is a situation where it's a prolonged period, more than 21 days without rainfall. So in that period of time, you need to maximally utilize the resources that you have. In this case, the resources that we have is water. Exactly. So you need to know if a plant is requiring 5 liters of water in its entire lifespan, you need to precisely put that water. Not necessarily to say I'm going to irrigate 5 liters by just pouring the entire field. So you are conserving the soil that you're also using. You're also conserving the water that you're having. But more importantly, you are getting more results because money saved is money earned. Is potentially money earned. Not necessarily saying if you save money, you have earned money. It's potentially earned depending on how you are going to use that money. So you could use that money to invest in more fields so that you can maximize the productivity.
Okay.
So that's in short
I
precision
think let us
farming.
put it warm.
Yeah.
For example, I was at my rural areas in Mutomba.
Mhm.
It's a mountainous area
Mhm.
and it's a bit cold.
Yeah.
So we drew the bore.
Yeah.
There's bore, there's electricity at our rural areas.
Mhm.
So probably I've got 1 or 2 hectares which is there.
Mhm.
How would you advise me? Let's say, because currently actually my father was busy planting maize and we're actually in the maize season. So I was telling him that yes, we can harvest maize right now.
Yeah.
But are we going to get enough in terms of, are we utilizing that
Mhm.
land?
The land precisely.
Are we maximizing, like what we're saying?
Yeah.
Probably I'm going to get $500, but I was
Mhm.
supposed to get 5,000 from that farm.
Yes.
How can you actually, where is the starting point where you actually come in?
Yeah. Actually, I think you've touched a very important thing.
Yeah.
We are coming from a background of a situation where kumamisha kwedu, or rural homes, where people have got this notion that inene anditenge chibage
Exactly. I want to, yeah.
and I'm self-sufficient. It's something that is a bit flamboyant.
Exactly.
It's something that is exciting.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from this perspective, of course, we got you don't buy the maize.
Exactly.
But are you really fully getting the maximum returns from that field? So in this particular case, we are seeing a situation where, yes, you could be able to still not buy the maize, not grow the maize, but still have abundant output, abundant productivity at your farm. How would you do that? The first thing is, before you even drill that bore, which might not be fully giving you results, I'm sure a majority of people drill boreholes using these conventional ways. We are talking about a situation where, using our systems that we have, we are able to determine on that entire piece of land, where is the highest water potential, where is the lowest, where is the moderate, so that when you are drilling on the highest spot of your entire field. That's number one. So when you are drilled on when you have drilled on the highest spot, you now have sufficient water to use on that land precisely as well. Now coming on to the projects which we are doing, it's something that is a bit tricky when it comes to the business of farming. Because normally the first thing that we need to remove is, we are removing agriculture and we replace with agribusiness.
Okay, yeah.
Notice the word business.
Business,
It's the game changer
It's
there.
game changer.
So when it comes to this particular case, let me give you an example of maize. You need 7 months
Exactly.
in the field doing maize. And what you are going to get, if at its best, you get 10 tons, which is rare. Our national average is actually 0.9
Serious?
tons, 900
I didn't know
kgs
that.
per hectare. Yet the commercial average is 5 tons. So if you are the bestest among the top, you get 10 to 12 tons per hectare. And let's use the bestest part. You get 10 tons, and the average gazetted price is $330 per ton. We are talking about 3,300 that you are getting after the 7 months. Now let's take it from a perspective of land use and management planning. We have seen that I've got this sector. Let me put, let's say, cabbage, and specifically some shorter varieties which take 65 days to 70.
Yeah.
That's basically 3 months, half and another month of the almost 2 months plus another month of the time that you take doing maize. Now on these 3 months, you have put your cabbage, which is 33,000 plants per hectare. And the selling price, if you are to sell, let's say you are selling at 10 to 20 cents or even 30 cents. Sometimes cabbage goes as far as $1 for 2.
A cabbage going for $1.
That's so. For the purpose of reduce, I just want to reduce this part so that you can see why should you invest in land use planning for precision farming. So the part is, you have reduced this. You are now selling at $1 for 3. And we are talking about the 33,000 plants. Of course, based on the management system, you can get up to 80%, you can sell the 80%, the other 30% might not get it. So we're talking about selling 28,000 or 26,000. So the return that you get from that hectare is actually 10 to 12,000. Now think of it, you are number one, remember we were talking about capacity utilizing of your time and your return on money invested. And if you are to look at the investment put, the difference is that per maize you're going to use 1.5 to 2,000 per hectare. In the cabbage you're going to use 2,000 to 4,000 per hectare. But if you are to look at the returns that are going to be generated, it's actually more than 20,000 within the same period. So now why can't you then use that return to buy the maize that you're saying?
Exactly.
I don't buy Chibagi, I don't buy Murio.
Yeah.
So it's a change of, we need a paradigm shift of the mindset.
Okay.
The way people view farming and the way they view the business part.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want
like from what you're saying, you can get in. I think you see how it's important to hire experts, because the problem is when you just grow up, everyone thinks that is a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that everyone
that's true.
Everyone just thinks that no, it's all about getting land. After getting land, you till land. After doing that, you just find a crop. Then already you're now a farmer.
And you simply asked, what can I do? I'm in Manika land. Which crops can I do?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I think it's one of the biggest lies that we've been sold, that we actually believe that we can make a return from substantive farming, especially of maize. I did the same mathematics with my father. He called me and said, we've got a family group.
Exactly.
So there are 4 siblings. We are 4 in our family. So he posted a message and said, we are about to get into, this is sometime last year. Said we are now about to get into the rainy season. So please prepare some money
Fertilizer.
that you buy us fertilizer so that we don't bother you next year when we don't have maize.
Exactly.
So I was trying to calculate for him. So roughly the arable land that we have at our homestead, it can add up to 2 to 3 hectares, but because of old age, he's now in his retirement, so he's practicing substantive agriculture in his retirement. So the capacity utilization is already low, because they only do about 1 hectare to 1.5 hectares. But then if you look at the yield that they get, this is the money that they invested. I crunched the numbers and told him respectfully, of course, that do you know that all the money that we are going to pull together to buy the seed, the fertilizers, including the labor, you could actually buy maize during harvest time when everybody's got plenty.
I think
the
that's
price
a very
is
powerful
low.
point.
Then you buy and stock up. You even have enough for your chicken, your pigs, and
and
for you to even eat.
And the worst part is, this is just a business concept now. This is just, you can actually be surprised. Do you know that even if you don't decide to still do what the other crop ventures that I was saying, you just invest in a processing plant. The processing plant for soybean, which makes soya oil or which makes cooking oil, or the processing plant for the maize, which will make maize crush, and for the soybean, which will also make soya cake. Do you know that it will take you 7 days to buy the maize, 10 tons, to process it and to send it to the market? And you look at the capacity that you have spent only 7 days.
10 days.
Someone has spent 7 months.
7 months.
Wow.
So now look, you can still buy that maize, and the good thing now is you are not facing the climate change directly, of course. You are not facing the challenge of you have got the chance of selecting the best crop from other farmers.
Exactly.
You are no longer on the receiving end. You are now the price taker. You are now giving the people the exact thing that you need. You can even decide to say, I'm buying at 300. If you don't want it, it's fine. And you've got still more people.
But gentlemen, I think this is being caused by, you notice, I was in Nyakatsapa Primary School. I went to Maristi Brothers. I went to Hartsel. But I noticed the trend whereby in our schools, agriculture is taken as a secondary subject. Because here's JailBreak Africa. What we want, we are happy that Afrostein introduced precision farming. They are the founders of it in Zimbabwe, and which is a big milestone. You guys need to be celebrated.
Well done.
Because Zimbabwe, our backbone of our economy, it's agriculture. Backbone of our economy is partly mining. But what I noticed is, if you get into our schools, agriculture is taken as a secondary subject. It's not even compulsory to do agriculture in primary. It's not even compulsory to do agriculture in secondary.
Absolutely.
But amazingly, it's compulsory for us to speak in English in most of the schools. It's compulsory for us to do mathematics in schools. But is it what is supposed to actually turn around our economy? Because that's why now we now have half-baked farmers. I've dealt with farmers as a consultant. Notice that most of the farmers who are doing tobacco, they get money from companies like These are the big contractor
BAT,
farming,
Northern
exactly,
Tobacco and
Tiancis of this world. They get money today. Then they go out, they plant their tobacco, harvest their tobacco, get to the auction floors, and get money. So it becomes a cycle.
And they only get enough to
they
get
only
back
get
again.
enough to get to the farm again, and they're now having a lot of creditors. So I told this other farmer, he was saying, for the last 6 years, I was doing 60 hectares, but I can hardly buy a car. Huh? So it simply means that he became a farmer because of an opportunity. Probably got a farm during Wonder Minda, and he just got a farm, and he thought that he was now a farmer. So, but what about if he was educated to be a farmer from ECD? So I don't know, guys. What's your take? What's your take in terms of Africa?
You are absolutely making a lot of sense. What you're saying is witnessed across the whole of Africa. We have so many economic variables across Africa because of the different regions, terrains, climates, and whatever. But what I can tell you is that there's an abundance of natural resources in Africa. But then you realize that the education system in Africa, across all Africa, because remember, the whole of Africa, we are subsects of colonies from the Europe or the Asians.
We are products of the Berlin Conference. Yeah.
So the education system was structured in such a way that it mirrored the first world countries. We are concentrating on service provision more than the primary items that will raise our economies, like agriculture, like mining. So you then realize that even mining, it's not taught in schools. We don't know. If you ask any primary school student, they don't know the basic processes of purifying gold. And yet we've got abundance of it.
The question is, do they even know gold?
You see now, they don't even know. We are supposed to be in a space where if I am in Libya, a student in primary school should be able to tell the difference between processed oil and crude oil.
Exactly.
They should be able to tell you how the various petroleum products are derived from distillation.
Exactly.
If you come down to South Africa, they're supposed, let's say Botswana, they're supposed to know the difference between a rough diamond and a processed diamond. If you go down to South Africa, they're supposed to know what the type of gold there is. You know, there are so many varieties of gold.
Yeah, actually, when you look at it, it's a painful story of the African child. Someone was saying a person is developed within 7 years. But what do we do within these 7 years in Africa or in Zimbabwe in particular? There was someone who was saying if you are born from if you are coming from a poor background, you spend your entire life blaming yourself, who I am, what can I do? No, I'm just this. But if you are coming from a stupid and foolish background, that combination, you can be that dumb, but you can still make it. How is that possible? It's because of the exposure. I'm one of those people who came from that period where I thought agriculture is a poor man's business. So I'm glad to let you know that I'm actually a prodigal son. I'm back. I'm back because the business of agriculture as it is. Look at it from a perspective. We have learned with a lot of when you were at college. I was at Quebec College. We've learned with a lot of white guys. Those people do not spend much of their time beyond the college level, going to the university, trying to then say, I'm now doing masters. What are you mastering when you don't have something to do?
So you're the one who told me. You remember when I was saying that why is that our universities, you see white people in primary, like our viewers, we see white people in ECD. There are a lot of white guys. In primary level, there are schools mixed white and black people. You get into secondary, mixed. St. George's is there, white people, black people. Universities, white people just disappear.
Yeah,
because they're now
gotten
into the practical part of the business.
Quebec College, you see, and they're now, and you're the one who told me that some of them they don't even finish. They don't even need a certificate.
Yeah,
they just say, okay, the information which you've given me, it's enough.
Yeah,
let me now go back to the farm and
they take the farming seriously. And they understand the concept of capitalism to say, how much should I get from this piece of land?
Yeah,
I know certain farms, I might not mention them, but they are worth billions of dollars here in Zimbabwe. But when you look at them, they don't even put PhD up in front of their names. Wencelous Nyamupfukudza, PhD. They don't do that drama. But you know,
we are obsessed with titles. You know,
it's
in
something
Zimbabwe, if
that
you say you attend a function probably where there are a lot of doctors. It will be just when you want to say call someone Mr. Then you say no.
It's doc.
It's doc. You can call me doc.
And also,
or a prof.
To further cement the issue to do with titles before you continue, we black people, our Africans in particular, we are the ones who are obsessed with having your door written CEO. You want your parking bay CEO. Look at the white community, right? If it's a parking lot, they don't put the title of who's supposed to park. It's just reserved.
That reminds me.
It's just reserved.
You know, that reminds me.
COO, CEO, CTO, CFO.
That reminds me, just yesterday, I had an opportunity to visit this other millionaire, multi-millionaire, one of the richest guys in Zimbabwe, but we don't even know him. We don't even know him. You see, I went to his office. I was motivated. You get into his office. At his reception area, there was an office with 5 people working in one small office, sharing an office, but he's a multi-millionaire. I got into his office. Simple office, nothing fancy, nothing new, but this guy is owning streets. This guy is owning some of the best streets in Harare, but he's just as humble as that. But us now, his titles, one person is supposed to have an office, no sharing of offices.
Fully furnished, exotic furniture, what?
Big cars. So we missed the point. So I think you can go back. You wanted to say something about your product. You are being a prodigal son. Now you are operating with some of the best farmers in Zimbabwe. And what can you actually say probably to someone who's out there who actually, and what you also say to our authority, like our government? How can we start incorporating farming as a compulsory subject? To say everyone, whether if you're going to be a doctor, you must firstly, you should be a farmer. Because being a doctor is not going to change the economy of Africa. Let us be honest, guys. Being an accountant like me is never going to change the economy of Africa. After all,
they are already living.
Being a journalist is never going to change the economy of Africa directly. They can influence.
They want the third layer.
Exactly. But we are saying the primary. It's mining. It's agriculture. I don't know. You are now the enlightened one. What do you have to say?
So when I left, I was in Gurwe, by the way. When I first came to Harare as a result of ill health, 2013.
Okay.
So when I came here, I was of course fascinated with the buildings and so on. But by 2015, I then went to the farm. That's when we bought our farm. So when I saw the beef, the cattle within our neighboring farms and at the farm that we were buying at the auctions, I was surprised. Oh, so this is actually a cattle, because those cattle we were only seeing them in geography books. So I thought these things do not exist. But when I then saw this, I said, so how exactly are people making money with this thing called farming? I spent my entire time studying, researching how are people making money. I remember so very well, and I usually mention this. When I went to Gwebi College first time, my teachers from Chifamba High School, they called, we were told that you are not doing agriculture. Then I said, but my way, I'm doing many. They're so worried. This is some. So I was so worried. So these people, where am I going? So 3 months later at Gwebi now, I had to call them. So you guys should start teaching people, telling people to do agriculture.
Exactly.
Because agriculture, I was completely changed. And West, when I went to Attachment, one of the biggest farms in Sadik, but it's here in Zimbabwe. So I was so fascinated with the way they do farming, to the extent that the other day I was chasing one of the dairy cows, and the manager he knew that there is a cattle number this which is being chased down. He said, hey, mfana, asidze kumusha ovets. I don't even know how did he get to know all this at a farm with 3,000 dairy cattle. So it's something that I was surprised. How did he know this? So I went further to check this. But when you then look at right now, the kind of enterprise and the way we are doing business in the business of farming, I've also noted, and this is a concern, I've seen a lot of diasporans, they put money together trying to do this farming. But I can assure you, maybe in your business you've seen that, but I've seen a lot of people teaming up, trying to make a business, but it doesn't kick off. I don't know, is it maybe a culture or a mentality within us as the black people, or it's something that just happened that we cannot just do business as a combined force? But if it was possible, we would be going very further, because after all, capital is a bit challenging. I mean, financial capital. And this is another key issue, the issue to do with capital. We'll come back at it, because a lot of people with the usual complaint that I don't have capital, I don't have this. But it's not necessarily the finance that is probably needed. Probably you need
an idea.
Yeah. It's something that is also surprising that we started Afrostein with no money. Like zero money.
I know that. I know that literally.
So it's something that people do not get to the idea of understanding how to then take off. Let me just give you a bit of statistics relating to agriculture. In SADC, we've got free trade blocks within SADC, our regions, and the global demand. The GDP for the SADC region is around $780 billion. That is emanating straight from what? Activities within, not only agriculture, activities within the SADC block that are much related to agriculture. And we have got the capacity to move freely. We also have got COMESA. We also have got ECOWAS. And recently we've got this continental free trade area with a GDP of about $3 trillion United States dollars. Okay. But the majority of these, let's look at the agricultural part. We've got blueberries. Zimbabwe is fortunately becoming the fast growing, actually one of the biggest growers of blueberries in the whole world.
Serious?
With a GDP of, with a global market potential, not GDP, global market potential of 3 billion. But guess what is currently being produced? 6 million.
Oh.
Global. So it's something that is a bit much more surprising. But when you look at the people investing, they are probably not investing in agriculture because of lack of what was said in Isaiah. My people perished because of lack of knowledge. And also, my people have gone into captivity because of the same knowledge which is lacking. So if people are now educated with specialized knowledge, it's who say that it's a thing and grow rich, isn't it? You need to have that specialized knowledge within that. If you don't have it now, have the expert to guide you in your investment. So in that way, people can develop better into that. And it then goes back to for the government. I was told that there is the color thing that is coming to this.
Exactly.
It's surprising, but I'm sure, as of myself, it's not touching exactly what we want when it comes to the business.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the Chinese government, I adore them so much. They don't spend much time focused on. They teach real entrepreneurship from the grassroots. And when it comes to these things, not necessarily saying everyone should be the entrepreneur, but when you look at the key things that we are doing, they substitute a lot of churches with a lot of companies and a lot of incubation hubs for the people be vachitory kuma primary level. So that is a way to actually make sure people are fully understanding the business of farming, not only business of farming, but all the industries. It's very, very important. But when you look at the curriculum change, the curriculum is being changed by the people who are not in the business themselves, not necessarily saying someone who is not working somewhere. You should be, of course, operating or having been in the industry for too long, focusing on key areas. You know that we don't have these things in Zimbabwe. Now, when it comes to changing the curricula for the education system in Zimbabwe, let's involve the industry leaders, not the people who give instruction from an armchair approach. So, no, I think we need to teach entrepreneurship. Then the entrepreneurship module is written. I think it's something that needs to be changed
by someone who has never run a tax.
Who doesn't actually understand what are we talking about when it comes to who doesn't even understand what does it take. Do you need money or you need the right mindset to run a business?
So we are saying in short, if we are going to be writing a farming agriculture syllabus, it's supposed to be written by farmers.
Makes all the
we should
sense.
see
Yeah.
the farmers,
And
the agronomists, specialists like you guys, teaching on it, baby,
yeah,
teaching in agriculture university.
fully understanding that.
Fully
yeah.
understand, because I know you're teaching from the practical point of view,
That's
not from theory. Like
Exactly.
all these statistics which you're talking about, the opportunities which are available in agriculture.
Mhm.
I cannot start reacting to them whilst I'm now 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
What about if I will arm my kid, who is actually 6 years, 7 years? They already know that, no, there's a big opportunity. We need to actually, because all this information which you're getting, Steve, much of this information is hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, but some of it most
Like what about blueberries, the opportunities which are available. So I think that's what we're now saying. Because with JailBreak Africa, our agenda is to just say, is the Africa continent, how can we actually liberate ourselves? Because what I strongly believe is, we were given syllabuses by the colonialists, and we're still using the same syllabuses, and we're just changing a bit, but it's sometimes as we are changing them, they will still remain the same. So I strongly believe that if you're going to change this continent, like what you are saying, agriculture is to play a pivotal role. I'm not in the agriculture sector myself, but I've dealt with a number of farmers, more than 20. I've dealt with people who are supplying, who are indirectly feeding into farming, like you guys. What I noticed is people are learning of these things once they are now grown-ups. When someone is now a minister, is given a farm, that's when he's starting to learn about farming.
Yeah, and they also give knowledge and advice to others. We need to do this.
Exactly.
And when it comes to budgeting, they also propose the budget in the absence of the farmers themselves. Yet we know that, according to history, anything that is done for you without you being involved,
It's not for you.
It's not for you.
Yeah.
You get the point.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking at globally, one of the universities with the most vibrant business schools is Harvard. The Harvard School of Business. It has produced the likes of the Zuckerbergs and Steve Jobs and all. But you know what how they've structured their business school for it to be recognized internationally and to be that vibrant. What they do is they've got courses, or teachers who teach certain courses that are backbone to business. But then when it comes to practical elements, they actually get the gurus in business to come and teach on those modules. Like I'll give you for example, Donald Trump, he has got a module that he teaches in Harvard. Even Zuckerberg, he still goes back to teach certain modules. When they talk about investment, they call Warren Buffett to give a lecture on investment because he's the guru in that.
Yeah.
So we have failed to mirror that model. We have done it to some extent. Like I'll give you for example, locally in Zimbabwe, the law school at University of Zimbabwe, it makes use of the Lovemore Maduku and Fadzai Maher, the guys who have been in and out of the court dealing with the constitution. They teach the constitution for the law school students in Zimbabwe. That's wonderful. Then we also have places like your Cape Town, University of Cape Town. They've got a vibrant law school because part of the juries in national matters are the lecturers at the University of Cape Town. So their law school is vibrant. But for the rest of the learning institutions across Africa and in Zimbabwe, you know what they do? They take an industry captain. Instead of making them a lecturer, they make them the dean of that school. So they're now sitting in an office with so much industrial knowledge, but they are doing administration work as the dean. They're looking for partners, sourcing out things. Those are important things. But as far as teaching the practical elements,
Do they even do that?
Yeah, they do.
Do they even call industrial?
Yeah, I know. HIT because I was there in NAST as well.
No, HIT actually in Zimbabwe, I think it's in class of its own.
Yeah.
Because you cannot compare HIT to the likes of. I don't want to get into trouble.
Please get into
But,
names.
I cannot. No, we have to mention. Because you know what?
That's the only way they ever
That's
going to
why
change.
people. We need to challenge these universities to change. Because we are working with these guys.
Yeah.
We are the ones who are at pain.
It's very painful.
I cover a lot of consultants, and you are now being asked to recruit videographers. And I had a videographer who is at UZ. And this guy doesn't even know how to operate a camera, but he's in his fourth year. And I'm asking myself,
They spend much time on the theory part.
Yeah.
And what did he say to me? He said, I'm learning how to use a camera for the first time. Guess what? The whole class doesn't even have a camera.
From
They are
first
doing
year
media.
to final
They are
year.
doing photography and videography. But from first year up to final year, there's no camera.
And
So how are we doing? We should have even put stringent rules to say, if you want to study videography,
Buy a camera.
buy a camera.
And to make matters worse, you notice that we constantly change the curriculum without changing the person who is going to administer the curriculum.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
and there's this fallacy which says that the devil to our generation is the continued use of a blunt tool, no matter how many times it has failed to use. So you notice that people would say, no, the problem is our education system. Now, what have you done? Let's change the curriculum. But what have you done to
And
the
the same
teacher?
That's very true. That's very true. And you know
You are
what?
changing the
testament to what
is
he's
the
saying.
George was theory. You get the
Do
point?
you know that they introduced Education 5.0? They didn't change the curriculum at the training school.
The training school.
They-
They only changed at
They
the
changed
school.
at the school.
But at the
So you have 80% of the teachers unprepared to teach
Yeah,
Education
yeah.
5.0.
When it comes to actually the entire part of it, it comes back to the entire economy. I've seen, I once heard Professor Atham Tambara saying, where did we get that 5.0? Where is 4.0? We are in the fourth industrial revolution, where there's AI and
we are
vision,
rushing to
sensing,
5.
we've got machine learning and so forth. What happened when we were on the information age? What happened on the agricultural revolution? Actually, to be much more surprised.
you can say it, John.
I feel something good coming.
I mean, there's this.
Please capture that.
Okay, there's this issue where we are talking about precision agriculture. We're talking about drones seeding, drones doing crop protection, and we are moving. What about those that are moving from Iron Age? I want to say this in this way. We have got a situation where we understand that there's a moment where we had to say we are now moving to the Iron Age, not because we'd run out of stones, but because it's now an innovation. Now we are saying we want this stone was good enough. We cannot just leave it like that. We've got a situation where we use hoes in Zimbabwe, mapadza, simply because, you know, the hoe is very good at this, but honestly speaking, there's nothing good with that hoe, because after all, when you look at its implications, are people adopting that hoe to say it's really doing good for me? It's not. But what should we do to make sure that let's mechanize the system? I'm not talking about Pumvudza. It's something that I'm just saying. We have got a situation where we want to improve the farming system. How should we improve it? Let's make it entertaining. Let's make it inspiring. But how can it inspire when we are using the same tool which was used long back, before, soon after the advent of fire? We've introduced that, but we're saying let's do this in this way. So in other words, we have to change the way we do things. We cannot expect different results by continuously hitting using the same tool.
Yeah,
That's
very true. That's very true. And you know what? Feeding on to what you've just said, I realized an information disconnect in the Ministry of Agriculture. Do you know what they did? They were saying that they were expecting their biggest yield ever in terms of maize tonnage. Yes. Then the Meteorological Services Department is telling us that we are expecting a drought than has been experienced before. So I'm trying to...
So it means
the information
first Minister of Agriculture was working on its budget and preparation.
Yeah.
They never consulted
the Meteorological Services.
So normally it's a bit, some of those things are usually marketing things, mainly meant to perceive another person or another ministry as if it's doing very good. But you cannot, this word is not from me, but I will just use it. Hey, let me not use it.
You can use it.
But
this guy is trying to protect his tape.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. There was someone who was saying you cannot rig the results. Or you cannot rig the economy. It will always come out like you can try by all means to say this is something that is happening, but we've done so much good work, but when it comes to the results, I was looking at it from this perspective. Let me give another different version. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the DNA, but especially that DNA show with where people and people say no, it's not good, but I saw it from another perspective to say, okay, what if we would do that compulsory at birth? You see, how is it going to help us? I usually get
To reduce
disturbed.
a lot of cheating.
Not only cheating, but when there's a robbery or when there's any missing person,
You have a database.
You have a
of
database.
details.
you know
Everyone.
everything.
That's
So
smart.
you
That's
see,
smart.
even when you go to the bank, instead of producing an ID, I was taking my ID. Imagine you're taking an ID when you are 18.
18 years, exactly.
Now you
you're
are
40.
50. Should you always produce an ID, or you should constantly maybe use fingerprint, or you should constantly use the facial recognition? Our banks
but
do not have the source
Right
system.
now, even our banks, they are requiring, we talked about this the last time, if you still remember,
Yeah.
right? Our banks are still requiring things which are actually saying,
Proof of
why
raise.
do you want a proof of
I'll
raise?
continue saying this. Proof of what for? What for? Proof of raise. It should be asked for someone who wants to borrow money from the bank. To say, okay,
Exactly.
in
Where
the
do
event
you
that you
stay?
run away, where do you stay? Not to open a bank account.
So
Like,
it's-
why?
So it's something that it's very surprising. It's mainly because of the pace at which you are moving. Let me just break down. I love statistics, Thomas, and analyzing the things that are happening in the
Yeah,
economy.
numbers don't lie.
So when you look at it from this perspective, we are talking about Vision 2030. We should be at what? Upper middle income economy. And from my analysis, upper middle income, it means you are getting an average of 140 to 160,000 United States dollars in present day. That means in Zimbabwe we've got 16 million, and the dependents probably, let's say the working class probably is 5 or 7 million people. And if we have got those people getting 160,000, do you know what it means? It means that the economy is worth around 2.5 to 3 trillion dollars. That's the size of Brazil, Japan at the moment. That's the size of India. But when you look at what exactly are we doing compared to what is being done by India at the
Indians
moment,
or China.
what have they done? We are talking about it's a good thing. That's what people say, dreaming is good. But when it comes to what exactly are we doing, what we are talking about, we're talking about agriculture being the backbone of Africa. But are we backboning it with exactly what is needed? So look, if we are to say we need our economy to be at
We are
$3
paying for
trillion
it to be
dollar, we are saying our economy should be a $3 trillion economy. But what exactly are we doing to make it that way?
In Zambia, we put, what was also from what you're saying is profound. I think we need another show or 3 shows with this man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? Just today, I was asking some of my guys. They asked me, I had about 40 to 45 staff members. Then I was asking them, we've got a holiday on the 21st of February. What is the name of the holiday? When was it introduced? And what's the meaning? The answers which I got, no one got it. Some were saying it was the birthday of the former president. Some were saying we don't even know, but we want to go for holiday. So this is Africa for you. It's not only in Zimbabwe. In Zambia, we pray every day on Saturday. The seventh day, guys, they pray on Saturdays in the other churches. The other churches, they pray on what? On Sundays. But guess what? There's a national day of prayer. But I think we'll talk about that in the next episode.
So it's something that do you know that we are probably among Africa has got, if not Zimbabwe and Zambia, I mean someone that has got the highest number of holidays in the whole world.
Exactly.
Do you know that in China they have around, if not 12?
Exactly.
12. Actually, they are probably
The main one is this one, the New Year's.
So they don't spend much time doing that. But
And
it
they
comes,
work during, remember, they work 365 days because they also work on Sundays.
yeah. So, but when it comes to us, it's something that is a bit different.
This has been an exciting conversation. So here in Zimbabwe, we've got a proverb that we say. In Shona, it says, "Kana kangoma koreresa koda say kubaruka." So let me try to give you a best translation of that in English. So we're saying when the drum is now sounding at its peak, just know that the skin is about to tear. So we'll end this conversation on this note. But I'm looking forward to having you for more conversations. We started off in agriculture. We went into education. We went into some matters to do with the economics, some little bit of politics, and we ran across a lot of issues. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and probably next time again.
Fantastic. We'd be happy to host you any time of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an exciting episode of JailBreak Africa. We look forward to seeing you next week, same place, same time, with yet another exciting episode where we give you vibrant entrepreneurs, very energetic, and have these leading conversations where we are looking at transforming the African narrative and tell a different story about Africa. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button before I go and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out each time we post an episode. And before I close, I'm going to wait until you subscribe. Wait, I'm waiting. Subscribe. If you subscribed, there we go. See you next time. You're part of the team. You're part of the family. Continue having conversations in the comment section. We borrow some of your comments and we make them topics here on JailBreak Africa, because if you're thinking about it, then it's worth talking about. See you next week, same time, same place. I'm out.